Hi, I'm poet and writer Case Spivey. Today's video is going to be a little bit different from my normal content because, in case you haven't heard, I've joined the army. No, not the military, the BTS army. If you haven't been listening to the rants that have started since June in all of my vlogs, or seen that I did the BTS book tag, this may come as a surprise to you. But the signs were there. Even in my BTS book tag, someone posted this comment and my response. This is something that's probably not going away for a while. When I obsess on this level, I really obsess, and I feel like there's a lot to obsess about. And so I want to talk to you about something in particular that I think really does relate to my channel, that also draws in my love of BTS, and maybe will make you more comfortable to explore them if you're kind of like, they're a teenage boy band, I'm not going there, which was definitely my viewpoint as of like before June of this year. So first of all, who are BTS? You've probably heard of them by now. They are literally the biggest thing in the world right now. A K-pop group from a small company who has managed to take the entire world by storm, bringing K-pop into the mainstream in America, topping the Billboard Hot 100 charts for 10 weeks this year with Butter. They've been killing it, and for very good reason. So BTS is known for a couple of things primarily. One is their really intense dance moves. In terms of dance choreography, even among K-pop groups, BTS does stand out. You may not get that vibe from some of the English tracks that we've seen over here, which are all kind of summer boppy, and there is dancing, but it's something that, like, if you took a few classes you could pick up, or even Permission to Dance that came out this year was designed to be very, very easy to dance. Take a look back a little bit further and maybe try and see if you can dance to On, which also came out last year, and then you're gonna take a back seat on that. They're also known, as all K-pop groups are, for being beautiful people. That's one of the primary requirements for being an idol, is being stunning to look at. But another thing that BTS is really well known for is having amazing lyrics. Now, obviously, I started getting into them because of the dancing and because of the cute boys. Let's be honest. As I started to read the subtitles and learn what their songs were saying, I got hooked. The music is already good. The songs are beautiful. They're well constructed musically. But lyrically, their songs are incredible. Even the songs that were written for them in English have a lot of wordplay and have a lot of references in them that, if you pick up on them, the songs double in cleverness just over and over. As you learn more of the little hints along the way, it feels like you're following a trail of breadcrumbs. They're very clever. Words having multiple meanings in songs themselves having a lot of nuance is something that is very, very recognizable in BTS music that maybe isn't something that you expect from a K-pop group. Something else you probably don't expect, especially if you're American and you always had this kind of idea of K-pop being a very manufactured industry, is that BTS by and large write and produce their own music. Obviously there are producers that help with them, but most of the lyrics are their own lyrics. A considerable number of the songs were written entirely by members. This is particularly true of the rap line. By and large, if a rap is happening, you can assume that the person rapping has written those words themselves. This is especially true of two of the rappers, Suga and RM, which are their stage names. Suga produces a lot of music. He's produced music for other people, he produces a lot of their music, and he writes his own lyrics. If Suga is rapping, he has written those words. He also has put out his own album, and in terms of a rap artist and the rap style, what he does musically is pretty much genius. But he's not who I wanted to talk about today. I want to focus in today on RM, also known previously as Rap Monster, and also known by his real name, Kim Namjoon. You can always tell when RM is rapping versus when Suga's rapping versus when J-Hope is rapping. RM has a very deep, aggressive sounding rap style. As an American, as an English speaker, he is also the one in the group that stands out the most because he is the member of the group who is fluent in English. Any interviews where the group is speaking English, RM is going to be the one taking point. He is also the leader of the group, so he is often charged with being the first person spoken to in interviews and the person who kind of guides the rest of the group in interviews, but that's not the case in the Korean interviews to the extent that it is here. He really had to take charge and do all of the auto-translating, both listening and for translating for the group. He is probably the member, if you're aware of any of the members of the group, that would spring to mind. Another reason he might ring a bell for you is that he is the member who spoke at UNICEF, an incredibly powerful speech, and then they spoke again as a group last year when they were able to then translate and have the subtitles on the screen, but once again RM spoke in English. So if you saw either of those, he'd be recognizable to you that way. The reason I want to talk about RM today in this video is the poetry in his lyrics. RM writes a considerable amount of the lyrics in BTS's songs, to the point where if you start scrolling his Wikipedia page, his credits for lyrics are unbelievable. Once again, anytime that he is rapping, RM has written those lyrics. You can just assume that he has written the lyrics. It would be a rare occasion that RM had not written the words coming out of his mouth in any of their songs. He also produces a considerable amount of their music and all of his own music, the same way that Suga does. The thing that stands out about RM is that he's coming at rap from a different angle from Suga. Suga is coming at rap from a rap perspective, from a music perspective. No matter how good at the rap style RM is, and no matter how musically talented he also is, all of his music comes from a place of poetry, to the point where his lyrics read like poetry. Again, many of BTS's lyrics read like poetry. They have other great lyricists working with them, and many of the other members write incredible lyrics themselves. Take, for example, 4 O'Clock by V. I love that song. Or my absolute favorite BTS song, Spring Day, which, if you don't believe me that BTS lyrics can be absolute poetry, please listen to Spring Day. I will link all of the videos I'm mentioning down in the description because I want you to watch the videos. I want you to turn on the subtitles and listen and watch and read and understand just how poetic these beautiful lyrics that they're writing are. Like, these are not surface level, shallow lyrics. Spring Day is about missing someone with so much nuance, it still makes me cry sometimes. Now, what RM does with lyrics is the same thing that poets do. He focuses you in on an image or an idea, and he takes from that and expands upon it. He's also famous for his word plays. I specifically want you to watch the video by DKDK TV where they break down Dang, which is one of the Rap Line's diss tracks. It's amazing on its own. When he gets to the breakdown of RM's lyrics specifically, the word dang in Korean has a lot of different meanings, and he explains all of those meanings. But when RM starts in on his verse, they point out that he's using that word dang 7 completely different ways. Falling back on the meaning of words and playing with that is one of his ultimate strengths. I'm going to link that video as well as a video from my favorite reaction channel, Tony Reactions, where he watches Dang, and also one that he just recently put out where he reacts to one of RM's older, much more like rap forward diss tracks joke. He comes at it from an analytical point of view and a rap background. The interest in the double meanings and the cleverness in the rap are so apparent in those songs. Those ones are not the ones I want to talk to you about. I want to talk about specifically the poetic language that RM uses in a couple of different songs of his, as well as his speech last year for UNICEF, where he closed with some of the most beautiful words, and I'm gonna start with that one. So the speech itself is inspiring and beautiful, and his previous speech was absolutely stunning as well. But the lines at the end of his speech I thought were really gorgeous, that were 100% poetry. I'm gonna read those for you now. Our tomorrow may be dark, painful, difficult. We might stumble or fall down. Stars shine brightest when the night is darkest. And if the stars are hidden, we'll let moonlight guide us. If even the moon is dark, let our faces be the light that helps us find our way. He gets into that idea of hope and light that is something familiar to everyone, and he's saying all of this in English so it doesn't need translation, unlike some of the other pieces that I'm going to talk about. Phrases that are so familiar that they translate easily, this idea of hope and finding hope in even the smallest things, that even our faces looking at each other can be the light that can guide you through the darkness. It's beautiful. I want to do RM's solo pieces. Like I already mentioned he's done a lot of BTS songs in general, and so then other people are singing his lyrics, but I want to do ones where it's RM's words in RM's voice. And so this next one I want to talk about is Trivia Love. And of course it's a song. It's going to have repeated lines in it, but some of the lines that you pick out should be in a poetry book. They're so gorgeous. So I looked at translations from Dual Set Bangtan, as well as compared them to the lyric translations that subtitlers had done in various videos, subtitling over his singing. So I tried to use that because Korean is not a language that I can read or speak, and so I wanted to get like the most meaning I possibly could out of it. So this is from Trivia Love, and this line is part of a verse in the middle that I want to read for you. And keeping in mind, of course, that in Korean, these lines do rhyme with each other. And he says, I can just feel it, like the moon surely rises after the sun rises, like fingernails grow, like the trees undress themselves layer by layer when winter comes. And what he's asking about is this love? That's the main idea of this song, is this love? And that idea that like, I can just feel it, the way the moon rises after the sun, just like knowing that it's happening, but you can't really tell. The way fingernails grow, I think that's incredible. But this thing that like, you know it's happening, you can see it, but you don't actually feel it. Saying that it's like feeling that love is like feeling that. Like the trees undress themselves layer by layer when winter comes. That's gorgeous. There's another line in this one that says, before knowing you, my heart was filled with straight lines only. And so the translation in this goes into the fact that the actual characters for love and for human are very similar, but one has a little box in the same place that the other one has a little circle. And so the word for humans has the edges smoothed out. It can be the word for love. How beautiful is that? Apparently that's part of a popular phrase that like, you melt my edges. How cute is that? But then using that, but he switches it around and uses the same idea in English in the same song. This is why being bilingual, he takes that as an opportunity to be even more poetic, because he also says, I live, so I love. You make an I to an O. So the I in live turns into the O in love, using the exact same technique that he used in Korean, but translating it within the verses of the song. That's amazing. But I love that play on words, the taking something so simple as like live and love. And you know, we see those like live, laugh, love posters all the time, but thinking about it in a way that changes the I to the O to make it just like sweet and romantic. This is a K-pop song, this is cutesy and this is fun, and this is put in to be a cutesy fun song within the album. But the cleverness of the writing and the way he takes the exact same concept from Korean over to English, languages that don't always translate well, as you see when you try and get into things like if you watch the video about Dang, if you just watch them sing that, you'll just be lost even with subtitles. But the nuance of the words is incredible. Being able to do that with two different languages is very impressive. The next song of his that I want to go into is Reflection. This is one that starts off, I know every life's a movie, we've got different stars and stories, we've got different nights and mornings, our scenarios ain't just boring, which he sings in English. So again, doesn't need a translation. But later on it goes into, and this is all in Korean, I just stand here with the familiar darkness, people who are smiling, a beer that makes me smile, and the fear that gently approaches me and holds my hand. And this idea that the fear coming in and holding his hand is also a friend. That idea of personifying fear, and that this loneliness and this awkwardness and this fear are the friend that is standing with you where everyone else is walking in pairs. So this loneliness is embodied by this character who is with you as a friend, as someone that you're accepting. In a later verse of the same song, he says, "In the darkness, people look happier than during the day. Everyone knows where they're supposed to be. Only I am walking idly, but it still feels more comfortable to be here, blended into the scene. Tuxum swallowing the night." Tuxum is the park. "Tuxum that swallowed the night hands me a completely different world. I want to be free. I want to be free from freedom, because now I am happy yet unhappy. I see myself at Tuxum." And then the repeated line at the end of this song is, "I wish I could love myself." Which is just, if you want to be floored, reflection is so beautiful. But this idea of walking and the loneliness and feeling fear as a friend, but also that everyone else walking here at night knows where they're supposed to be and you're wandering alone. This idea of this like unrelenting sadness and this unrelenting fear and loneliness. And then at the end, he repeats the line, "I wish I could love myself." I also really love when he says, "I want to be free, and I want to be free from freedom." This is something that RM does just amazingly, where he's like, this is the societal pressure, and this is what I think about it. This is something that BTS has not presented in English as strongly, but is known for in Korean. This idea of questioning politics. This is where BTS roots come from. BTS from the start, No More Dream, their first big release, was about questioning society. I'm gonna link Bapse, which is my favorite song. And that is largely about being a millennial. And you know what? Being a millennial in Korea turns out pretty similar to being a millennial here. And they're just being like, we got screwed, but the boomers don't appreciate that they're the ones who screwed us and that things are different now. That was another one with wordplay. I'll link the DKDK TV for Bapse down below because I think it'll be a lot stronger if you listen to their translation of it. But in reflection, RM is saying, I want to be free, but I also want to be free from this concept of needing to be free. I know that I'm happy now, but I'm also not. I'm dealing with something big, something horrible, which is an insecurity that one doesn't expect from a celebrity and yet is rampant within celebrities. Suga also has songs where he talks about going through depression, like becoming famous doesn't solve the problems that you'd think it would, and it creates new problems. And this idea that RM has brought forth of that he is alone walking on this river that he can only go to at nighttime when everyone else is kind of minding their own business. Because at the beginning he says that he's there with the familiar darkness. And he's also saying it's nice that he has a friend in fear, but he doesn't have another friend. There's no other friend walking with him. There's a lot of loneliness. There's a lot of not being able to be a normal person that he's expressing in reflection. This idea that you should be happy. And this is something that BTS actually goes into a lot, especially in more recent work, that like you should be happy. You're a success. You're a celebrity now. But this idea that even so, there's this loneliness, there's this sadness, there's depression, and I wish I could love myself. And I understand that I should love myself is something that they go into in a lot of their songs. But it's something especially that RM likes to tackle a lot. I'm gonna go into the other song that really goes into this concept, and this is Forever Rain, which is off of his solo album Mono. I'm not going to read the repeated chorus lines, the Forever Rain, which is gorgeous. Again, it will be linked down below. I really want you to watch all of these songs and hear his voice singing them and read the subtitles as they go. I'm going to read the entire verses for Forever Rain because this is simply a poem. This is mostly in Korean. There will be some small parts that he switches into English. I wish it rains all day because I'd like someone to cry for me. I wish it rains all day because then people would not stare at me, because the umbrella would cover my sad face, because in the rain everyone is busy minding themselves. I've got to breathe a little slower because my life, my rap, they're all too fast in my everyday. Right now, everything goes back to its original place. My shadow is getting reflected in the sky. I am standing on the darkness. I put my head down to my heels. Slow rap, slow jam, slow rain, everything slow. And then the next verse. When it rains, I get feeling like I have a friend, keeps knocking on my window, asks how I'm doing, and I answer, I am still a hostage of life. Though it is not that I'm living because I can't die, I'm still chained to something. If only I could knock on somewhere like you, if only I could kiss the whole world so hard, would someone welcome me? Would someone embrace my weary body? Please don't ask me anything, just keep coming down forever. When you come down, I don't feel lonely. Please stay by my side, at least you. I want to live in an ashy world, knowing there's no such thing as eternity. Slow rap, slow jam, slow rain, everything slow. When it rains, it pours. When it rains, it pours. And he repeats. I don't feel like I need to say much more about that. That is a poem. That is poetry. That is stunning lyrics. And when you hear the song in Korean and can feel where the rhymes are, it's even more impressive. Just this concept of this idea of this loneliness. He's thankful for the rain because it's a friend who keeps knocking on his window. It gives an excuse to have an umbrella and cover his sad face so others can't see him. It's a way to hide, and it's a way to be invited when you feel really lonely and lost. Also this idea that like life is moving too fast. My life, my rap, they're all too fast in my everyday life. And he wants to breathe a little slower. And when he goes into, then the English portion is the part that goes slow rap, slow jam, slow rain, everything slow. And slows down and makes you feel the trudge of the footsteps. I mean, this is beautiful. This is genius poetry. The other part I love, and is maybe my favorite line of his. Possibly, certainly my favorite line in this. The rain keeps knocking on his window and asks how he's doing, and he answers that he's still a hostage of life. And that idea that like you're being held hostage by life. And I've seen it translated a few different ways, but this idea that he's not living because he can't die necessarily, but that there's something he's tied to, he's chained to something. I love that idea because it's so sad and so hopeful at the same time, that there is something he has to live for, that he is here for a reason. He can't just die. It's sad in a way that you're thinking, oh, if you can't, then that means you want to. But at the same time that you can't and so you won't. That he's going to keep living, that he must keep living. That it's almost not a choice anymore. You're still a hostage of life. And so it might be painful, it might be uncomfortable, it might be upsetting, but it's still the reason that you're still alive. You know? And it's like, who comes up with that? Poets. Who comes up with that kind of thing except for a poet? And so the very last one, we're gonna come out of the sadness of Forever Rain, which is just a beautiful poem on its own. I would love to just have that as a poetry book. His whole album Mono is really emotional and beautiful and shows off his talent as a poet. But the last one I want to talk about is Persona. So this is off of BTS album. This is off of Map of the Soul 7. And the concepts for Map of the Soul 7 comes from Carl Jung's theory of the map of the soul. Once again, I can link the DKDK TV video where they go into like what the map of the soul is and the fact that Persona is the first part. Suga also raps Shadow, which if you want to talk about like going through some trauma, Suga's got you. And then J-Hope has Ego, which is the third part of the map of the soul theory. I want to talk about persona and this idea because this is something that RM talks about a lot in his songs because he writes so many lyrics. There are recurring themes. There's a theme of this face of RM, of Rap Monster, being this alter ego. This is something that if you're a big fan of BTS, you notice this. If you watch like their variety show, like Run BTS, RM is not really like a central person. He's very much like, he's the middle child of the group. And age is very, very important in Korean culture. Your age in relation to the people's ages around you is very important. And showing proper respect is very important. And RM, though he is the leader of BTS, he is the middle child. Like smack dab in the middle of 7. He's got 3 older and 3 younger brothers. And so he very much is the goofy middle child of the group. Kim Namjoon, in relation to these other group members, when he's just hanging out, having a good time with them, he's the kind of awkward, kind of clumsy middle brother. Doesn't necessarily like leap in first to the conversation. He doesn't stand out as much. But when he puts on RM, when he is the leader of BTS, he becomes a different person. And that's the idol mindset of switching over, that he is the rapper, the spokesperson, the one who knows English best, who is going to interpret for the group and speak for the group. He's gonna be the one who stands up first. He's gonna be the one who takes the microphone first. And so this idea of he has a very strong persona, and this is something that a lot of idols do have, but that he talks about a lot. And that is a necessity for him of being the leader. He has to put on this leader persona. Whereas within a group of just the boys he's grown up with now, since they've been together 10 years, mostly sharing rooms together, he is a different person. So anyway, persona. It starts off. And then later he says, I'm still not sure if I'm a dog, a pig, or whatever. But then others come and put a pearl necklace on me, which is the pearls before swine idea. A pig doesn't really know the value of a pearl necklace, is where that concept comes from. We have the same saying in English. The saying is very popular. And he's saying, I don't know if I am just some creature, but people keep coming and putting this necklace on me that I don't even know is valuable. This idea of someone else placing this thing of value on you and telling you it's valuable, making you kind of uncomfortable. Later he says, my shadow, I named him Hesitation and called him so. Once he became it, he has never hesitated. Whether it is under the stage or under the lights, he keeps appearing and stares at me fiercely like heating haze or like scorching heat. And in the song at that point, the shadow takes over and starts rapping back to him. Clever within the music, but I like that idea also that he named his shadow Hesitation, called him that, and then from then he never hesitated. Whether it's under the stage or under the light, he keeps appearing and stares at me fiercely like a scorching heat. All the interpretations that I've seen of this is that the shadow is very much like anxiety, that this is the thing that you're hiding, which fits in then with the theory of shadow, and also in Suga's song, a shadow is then the thing that you're hiding. He calls his shadow Hesitation because it's something that he doesn't want to be, can't hesitate, have to like step forward, be the leader, and all of these things. Once the shadow was called Hesitation, he's never hesitated, which means that the shadow, this anxiety, keeps coming forward every time. Under the stage or under the light, he keeps appearing. Fear, this shadow, this thing that he's trying to hide behind the persona, which you could also interpret as Kim Namjoon, is constantly there, reappearing in front of him. I love that concept. Difficult to interpret without also going into the philosophy behind it all, because it's so tied in. And that is another thing. Kim Namjoon is very, very well read. He is very, very smart. This is something that the fandom knows, the army knows about him. He has a very high IQ. He was picked for a quiz show type thing, which is specifically for like ultra intelligent celebrities, and so he was there. What was he, like 20, 21? This 21-year-old idol, and he was hanging out with these guys from like these engineering majors from these prestigious universities, and he was doing just as well as the rest of them. Like, he was really holding his own and was contributing quite a bit to this group because he was coming at it from a very poetry side. He was coming at things from a creative angle, whereas all of these like really math and numbers guys were looking at problems one way. He would be over here looking at them a different way and often solved things even faster than everyone else. It was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool show. But RM is known to be extremely intelligent, and a lot of the influences of like going into this philosophy with the map of the soul or talking about political messages is something that you can very much look at RM as being the driving force behind, like, yes, it's an entire group, but it is an entire group that was formed around him as the leader. He was the first member chosen of BTS, and he writes a great deal of their lyrics. BTS then is kind of the seed of his soul, and it has blossomed, it has become so many things, and all of the members have kind of helped to grow this plant of BTS, but the initial seed and a lot of the nurturing is still coming from RM. Later in Persona, he says, "My flaws that I know, maybe those are really all I've got. The world is actually not interested in my clumsiness." Which again, he's talking about Kim Namjoon. He is known as RM, as this leader, as this person that we're talking about, who writes these beautiful lyrics, who stands up in front of the UN, stands up on stage, who speaks multiple different languages. People aren't as interested in the guy who can't seem to keep track of his own passport, can't seem to keep track of his own phone, breaks everything he touches, which of course ARMY is interested in that, but on a world stage, those things aren't useful about him. That he has to be this persona, that the shadow hiding is not a useful thing, that the flaws are something that is not helpful. Now again, the translation error makes some of these lines read a little bit awkwardly. I feel like if you watch the video, a lot of the concept does get across a little bit better than just me reading it for this one. I also like a line kind of close to the end. "You must never lose your temperature, because you don't need to be warm or cold. Though I might sometimes pretend I'm good and sometimes pretend I'm evil, this is the barometer of my direction that I want to set. The me who I want to be, the me who people want, the me who you love, the me who I craft, the me who's smiling, the me who's crying sometimes, living and breathing every second, every moment, even now. Persona." And that's sort of the culmination of the song. This character he's created, he has control over, he can craft it. That they don't have to be one thing or another, that they can be what he needs them to be, what everyone else needs them to be. When we talk about poetry, we talk about things like metaphor and like, again, rhyme, which is something that he does beautifully in Korean and doesn't always translate over, although some of these translators are very, very good. And I'm very impressed with how some people are able to almost keep that nuance in the speech patterns. But listening to him actually saying the words in Korean, you can hear that there is that rhyme scheme, there is that bounce of language, that beautiful meter that rap does very well, that rap requires to sound good, that he is fantastic at, and fantastic at holding you into that beat. But at the same time, I'm so enamored with some of the words that he writes. Like, seriously. I chose 4 of my favorites that I thought were a good representation of interesting things that he does with language that are specifically his solo songs. But again, I'm going to link down below to some of the other videos and some of the other people's interpretations and translations of the work, because it is incredible. This is what I think makes BTS a group that I want to stick with, is when they write their lyrics, they've got a message for you. They've got something they want to say. This isn't just a song that's going to repeat over and over again some cutesy lines. A lot of their music is these very deep concepts, these very like nuanced perspectives on things. And I love that musically and also lyrically, the songs don't just take you in like a little arc. A lot of their songs will start you off into one pattern and kind of dip down and come back up into a whole different section, and we'll have some waves in the music. And so that there's almost a turning point in a lot of their songs. Sort of the style will almost change a little bit, and maybe there's a dance break thrown in, but something interesting is going on. There's also the fact that there are storylines within BTS universe. Like, there is a whole alternate universe storyline you can get into. If you're interested in that kind of thing, BTS has you covered. They've got all kinds of craziness going on. Like, I had never seen a boy band where they had a music video that was just violent and heartbreaking and crazy. But if you want to be a little shocked, I Need You is wild. And it starts off this pattern where I was like, why are we constantly getting these like repeated images, these repeated metaphors? Like, why is there always fire associated with Suga? Why is there always water associated with Jimin? Why is RM constantly like looking like a hobo and drinking strange fluids? Like, what is going on? Why is Taehyung so violent? It's wild. There's so much going on in the BTS universe, but it's all layers. Like that, there's this storyline going on within the music videos, but at the same time, the storyline is about people struggling and people needing each other and people needing help, being overcome with despair and being overcome with hostility and being overcome with very strong real emotions. And like I said before, a lot of their songs are very political as well. Like, our generation got screwed. Like, sorry, millennials got screwed. And they got screwed apparently over across the sea as well. And them talking about like, what's not fair about that? Like, why are we so upset? And going into it and really looking at it in depth. A lot of that influence is Kim Namjoon. And if he were to ever just like decide to put out a poetry book, you know I'd be buying that so fast. I would need a translation, but he could translate it himself is the amazing thing. That I would look forward to that. And I look forward to more of their music in the future. Obviously, I bought Map of the Soul and I have B, which are both just incredible. Beautiful lyrics. And again, most of the boys write beautiful lyrics, but I just wanted to talk about Kim Namjoon today, talk about RM, talk about the songs that he writes that just absolutely touch my heart and that are absolutely 100% poetry. This is not just writing some lyrics for a boy band. Like, BTS is well beyond the level of boy band. They have surpassed that 100 times over. They may have started, well, they started as a hip-hop group, let's be honest. And from there they became an idol group, and from there they're like, we can't be boxed in. We're gonna do what we want, we're gonna do it well, we're going to do it truthfully, honestly, and beautifully, and they've been just succeeding like crazy. I don't see myself becoming less obsessed with BTS anytime soon. I hope that's cool with you. If you like this kind of content, definitely let me know down below. I would love to talk more about BTS. I would love to talk about BTS constantly, forever. But I also love talking about poetry. I'd love to go more into how poetic BTS lyrics really are. I would love to talk about Spring Day, which seriously, when you finish this, just go right away. Watch it, turn the subtitles on, breathe in that beauty. It is such a gorgeous song. The lyrics are so absolutely stunning. The dance for it is also good, but just the lyrics completely on their own are breathtaking. Definitely let me know down below. I will be probably getting back to some like AuthorTube, BookTube stuff here next week, but I thought this would be something fun. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you like poetry, writing, and book content. Follow me on social media. I'm at CaseByV on Twitter. I do also have a Patreon now. The link for that will be down below if you would like to support me. And my website is casebyv.wordpress.com. And I will speak to you again very soon. Good luck to you, and good luck to all of us. Thanks. Bye.